Hello, everyone. For this week's discussion, I chose to discuss the Japanese surrender at the end of World War II and its association with bombs and premature announcements for the inclusion in an American History 2 course. I believe that the newspaper articles that I selected more than demonstrate the American people's position towards this topic. As in many cases, there were multiple premature announcements of defeat of the country's enemies, or at least announcements that victory was in sight. The article given by the New York Times, entitled Wallace Hails Chinese Sees Japan's Surrender in the not distant future, is an excellent example of one such article. Japan did not surrender until the August of 1945. This article was published in 1943. However, it could be argued that the publication is a strategic endeavor by the American Vice President Henry Wallace with the goal of uniting Chinese and American peoples to fight against China's historic rival, Japan. The enemy of my enemy is my friend would be an adequate analogy here. As we all know, the Japanese did not surrender until the very end of 1945, when the Americans dropped 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on August 6th and 9th of 1945. So while 2 years may be in the not distant future during wartime, those 2 years would have seemed like a lifetime. The other 2 articles that I chose to look at were The Emperor Informs People of Defeat, as the nation greeted Japan's surrender before and after it became official, and Yielding Unqualified, Truman Says President Announcing Surrender of Japan. The first article, Emperor Informs the People, details the manner in which the Japanese emperor chose to inform his people of his surrender to the U.S. forces. That when instigating the war, it was to save the Japanese people, to preserve their way of life. That the war had not developed to Japan's advantage goes without saying. He did not see that it was beneficial to his people, and that the United States' use of atomic bombs would only further reduce Japan to scorched earth. The article, Yielding Unqualified, is more factual in its delivery, and it comes from an American perspective of President Truman's plans for Japan in the event that they did not surrender, and his plans that because they did, he was going to keep certain troops in occupied areas to ensure the peace. He even gives more concrete numbers. All 3 of these newspaper articles are relevant to the Americans' perspective of what was happening with Japan in the Pacific theater of World War II.